I'd like to call this Oscoda Township regular boarding meeting to order. Today is May 9th. It is now actually 7 p.m. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yeah, I think it was working.
Okay, we'll start with roll call. Is my microphone working? Yeah, it is. Now I can hear it. Okay. Yes.
I cannot hear you. Is the microphone down?
I just, I'm saying it now. Can you hear that?
It's a stretch for me to hear.
Can I turn it up?
Can you guys turn it up a little bit,
Thank you.
please? Okay, we'll start with roll call, please.
Mr. Cummings,
Here.
Ms. McGuire,
Here.
Mr. Spencer, Mr. Palmer,
Here.
Mr. Sutton here, Mr. Wishbarth,
Present.
Ms. Richards,
Here. Any agenda, well, I know we have a couple agenda additions, but agenda additions this evening?
yes. We have the following additions for other number 10, ZBA appointment, other number 11, OOP final bill from John Henry for the shoreline erosion project, and an additional resolution number 2022-13 to approve or deny the sale of property.
Okay, so actually, the resolution will go under resolution, so
Yes.
that would be number 5. Resolution 2022-13.
Yes.
And then actually, the ZBA is an alternate position, so, yeah, ZB alternate. Okay, any other agenda additions?
I guess as a change to the agenda, I'd like to look at a postponement for number 7, as we don't have a full board, and I believe the full board should be present for that discussion and vote.
Do we do that at the, actually, when we get to that on the agenda, or?
So you're asking to completely just deal with it, postpone it now?
I'd like to postpone it now,
Okay.
as we don't have a full board convened.
Can I ask board members to put the microphones toward their faces? I would really appreciate it because I can't hear you all the way down here. Thank
There
you.
we go.
Okay, so number 7 is the Economic Improvement Director contract renewal, to postpone that to the next meeting. Okay, any other agenda additions or changes? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve those agenda additions as submitted?
I'll make a motion, we approve the changes and additions.
Support.
Okay, there's a motion by Ms. McGuire, support by Mr. Westerbarth. Roll call, please.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Mr. Wishbarth,
Yes.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes, Ms. Richards,
Yes, motion carried. Moving on to the first public comment section of the agenda. The first public comment section is reserved for items that are on the agenda. So is there any comment cards?
Yes, I have 2.
Okay, and are they in regard to still things that are on the agenda or have?
Yes.
Okay,
The first one is Vicki Hopcroft.
Good evening, everyone. Vicki Hopcroft, Oscoda, Michigan, speaking as an individual. I had 2 comments, but one is taken off the agenda. The other one is, tonight you're looking at the Planning Commission bylaw amendment, and this is something I apologize I didn't catch previously, but I'd just like to recommend that in paragraph E on page 2, that the sentence, looks like it's the first sentence, be changed at the end just to correct kind of clunky grammar, so that the last phrase will read, or if a member has a conflict of interest, rather than using what's written right now, which is something like amongst a member. A member is a single person, amongst implies more than one person. So it's just a simple correction, which I ask that you include. And that's all my comments for this period. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vicki. You said there was another comment card?
Yes. Nancy Roy.
Okay, let's see if this works for me. Okay, I cannot hear you. And I'm going to start my response that I am hearing impaired. I actually have a bone adjusted or bone enhanced hearing device, and I cannot hear you and I cannot see you. I read lips. So it's really important that the audio work better, that people speak into the microphone and be reminded. And I would appreciate it if you would consider adding Zoom, because at least at home, I have equipment that I can augment my hearing device and turn up the volume. I also can enhance my picture so I can get closer to see your lips. It just makes it very hard for me to participate. And I cannot rely on MICTV to have their audio working at each meeting. So I would really appreciate it if you would consider the Zoom. I know that's been closed before, but it is something that I request you to reconsider. Now, I'd like to get into my comments. It seems that the EIC committee has decided last Thursday to renew Mr. Dickerson's contract for another 3 years.
Again, that item was actually postponed,
So
the
you don't want me to
discussion.
discuss
So
it?
we're not discussing it
So
whatsoever
you're,
this
okay,
evening.
so you don't want me to discuss it?
Well, I guess that's,
It can come back to the second public comment.
yeah, you can come back at the second public comment. We're not
Okay.
acting on anything this evening in regard to, and I'm sorry for interrupting you.
No, that's all right.
It's just, it's no longer an agenda item that we're discussing, so
Okay.
first public comment is not an appropriate time, but you definitely can come back at the second public comment.
It just, so you removed it from it, and therefore I can't discuss it in the first
At the
section.
first public comment,
Okay.
it is reserved for items on,
Okay.
yes, that
I
we're discussing
appreciate that
tonight.
because I didn't hear all of that.
Okay,
Thank you.
sure. Did you have other items besides that one?
No, I haven't had a chance to read all the agenda, so.
Okay,
I
all right. Well,
apologize.
again, you're more than welcome to come
Okay.
back for the second public
Thank you
comment.
very
Yep,
much.
thank you, Nancy. Okay, any other public comment?
No.
Cards, I should say?
No.
Okay, thank you. All right, moving on to the consent agenda. This evening, we have on the consent agenda the regular meeting minutes from April 25th. Were there any questions or changes on those? All right, we have the first, the prepaid May 3rd check run, $119,243.37. Were there any questions or comments, Bill?
One comment on the page 9 of the packet of the payment of bills, under Department 257, the assessor, it lists supplies for the clerk's office. I don't believe that should be charged against the assessor's office. I believe that is being taken care of, but I wanted to point it out to the board here. We need to make sure that the right amount of money gets deducted from each department's budget accordingly. So it's not a lot of money, $69.68, but
Right. It eventually all adds up.
it all adds up, that's right. And the
Okay,
assessor
so,
has a fairly small budget.
Mr.
anyway.
Sutton is aware of that?
Yes.
Okay. All right, any other comments on the May 3rd check run? All right, then moving on to the May 10th, we have $77,274.89. Any questions or comments on those? Okay, hearing none. Then we have a couple CWSRF check runs. Were there any questions on those? There was 3.
Yes, I
Okay.
have a couple of questions on a couple of those items.
What page is it, Bill's? I don't have my copies with me here. I forgot them.
Well, let's see, it's the, first one's page 19, and it's check 1012, and it's to consumers' energy being charged to the CWSRF. Usually the other ones are for, the construction, RCL construction, row engineering. I just wondered, there's 3 of them that are being separate checks paid to consumers' energy. If that's like an electric bill, I didn't understand how that could be charged to the CWRF.
I think that was, maybe Tammy can answer that?
Those are for the vaults for the lift stations, correct? Dave?
The pump stations where we're doing new work, that is the permit or the required work that Consumers Energy has to do to run new services to 3 of the pump stations.
Okay, very
So
good.
that's what it's for. It's for the CWSRF.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, Bill, or they're just that one?
No, that was
Okay.
it.
I mean, and not that it's hugely relevant, but the skirt has dipped down, and, I mean, I'm wearing pants and so is Jamie, but I'm just saying it's kind of an awkward angle, but, yeah. I mean, instead of a skirt, sorry. Let me clarify that. It's a little bit of a awkward.
Oh, you knew right where it was at.
Those were other duties to be assigned as they came on, sorry.
Okay. Move on, Ann.
Okay, all right. So with that, do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Support by
Palmer.
Cummings.
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Palmer and support by Mr. Cummings to approve the consent agenda. Roll call, please.
Mr. Wurstabarth?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. Thank you for adjusting that, Tammy.
You're welcome.
Appreciate that. Next on is the subcommittee reports and project updates. First on is the Economic Improvement Director update. Todd?
Good evening, everybody. Just a couple of things I'll make mention here for you. At last meeting, we had a fantastic review and update by the Art Subcommittee, but I just wanted to point out as a follow-up to that presentation that we are looking at pedestal locations for our 2022 installation of art. And then we also have the banners that were purchased last year, and the proposed locations for those banners will be on the east wall of the office, the south wall of Sobel Hardware, and there is a pretty interesting spot, I'll say, in the Township building. It's actually at the south end of the fire station wall, that I think would be a great location for a banner. These banners, again, are 8 by 8, so I think it would fit nicely there and class up the US 23 corridor for us. Social district is taking shape. I know later here in the packet you'll have an opportunity to pass resolutions for the 3 participating bars and restaurants for our social district. The signage that is required by our operations and maintenance manual, those signs and posts are complete, and we need to go pick those up, but those will be installed here in the next couple of weeks, I hope. And the pups to inaugurate the social district have been delivered, and they look very nice, and all the bars and restaurants are excited about those. Last meeting, I was able to provide you the RRC update that we are in fact certified. We'll be having a celebration event July 15th, and we will host that event at Township Hall. Mdhs administration and elected officials will, from the state, will also be at the event. And I think over the next 2 to 3 weeks, we'll be having a Holiday Inn Express groundbreaking event.
Nice.
Feel like I'm missing something? But that's all I have written down, so that must be the end of the report.
All right. Any questions for Todd? before we move on?
Yeah, Todd, would you mind just recapping for folks what the value of RRC is for Oscoda Township?
Well, the inherent value is that, to get through the RRC process, you are forced into sort of taking a deep reflection in the mirror of your processes and, what you go through to provide zoning and planning, the EIC processes. So that in and of itself is worthwhile because, I think in the last couple of years, we've done a lot to, make sure those processes are clean, they're transparent, that people can come to the community, make an investment and feel like they know what they're getting themselves into, and there's a certain level of transparency involved. Once you get past that, our next step in this process will be to identify what is called priority sites, so key sites and buildings in the community that if were purchased for redevelopment or developed on or redeveloped as a property would really, change the face and the dynamic of the community. That's laid out in that process, those prioritized sites. Once we get through that process, then Mdhhs provides technical assistance and consultants to help put together plans for those sites and buildings. They do matchmaking with developers and investors outside of our area. So they help you basically prepare you for marketing and help you market your community through their channels. And then we'll also be afforded other layers of grants and funds that are only reserved for RRC communities. So I forget the name of the fund. It might be their Main Street or Match on Main Street grant program. And Alpena is RRC certified. So once a quarter or once every 6 months, they run this grant program, and Alpena's businesses get these awards because there's a lot of businesses up there. And I know that I inevitably always get an email. How come Oscoda's not getting these grants? Well, because we're not RRC and they are. So we should see more money from the Mdhhs through grant programs coming our way because of RRC.
Thank you.
I had one. Todd, can you go over the process for a LOI? I've had a person come to me and ask me about what that process is, and they weren't familiar with it.
I could have brought you the LOI process, but I didn't know this was coming up tonight. And it is, I will tell you, it's on the EIC website, the microsite, so Oscoda Township EIC.com. You can go there and download it. Essentially, we have properties that are tagged as disposable and non-disposable properties, and anybody wishing to acquire a piece of property can submit an LOI. I have templates, so all they have to do is contact me, get a copy of an LOI template, and then they would turn it back into me. It goes to Tammy, and then it finds its way to the board here.
Does it get reviewed by the attorney before it comes to the board?
Not at this time, no.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anybody else? All right, thank you. Oh,
Thanks,
I
Doug.
guess I do have a quick question. The Holiday Inn Express, you said we're going to see a groundbreaking or something coming up?
We're trying to do a groundbreaking event here in the next couple of weeks.
Right, because obviously those 2 containers were delivered quite a few months ago, and since then I haven't seen anything.
Actually,
just-
I drove
There was
by
some there
there's
today.
a
Was there some?
There's an
Yep.
excavator
Okay,
and a skid
all
loader
right,
sitting
then
there.
that's new today, yeah. So, I mean, are they anticipating pretty soon then for breaking ground?
I would say so, yes.
Okay,
The ceremony and the actual groundbreaking aren't necessarily
right, yeah.
tied
they
together,
nec-
but
Yeah,
yeah.
I hear you. Okay, thank you. Okay, then, next on is the FVOP quarterly O&M update. Kath?
Good evening. So we have a quarterly update in the board packet, just outlining some of the highlights of our operations for the months of January through March. I'm not going to go through the whole thing line by line. We do also have a table, for those who might not be familiar with it, of a summary of all the routine work orders that are performed.
and then a maintenance allowance update and copies of your 3 most recent lagoon discharge reports. Does anybody have any questions in regard to any of the information in the report or any other water and sewer questions?
I just have a question on the lagoon issue that happened in March. So did we get a violation from Eagle for not reporting, or did we report?
Well, there were 2 incidences that occurred. There was one that occurred at the beginning of December, and the situation was very controlled. There was not any sewage that was leaving the site. It was being pumped into the lagoon for treatment. And so we did not report it as a sanitary sewer overflow because that's, normally something that's going to impact surface waters or potential threat to public health. But in regard to Eagles, they're saying that anytime any sewage leaves the pipe in which it's supposed to be contained is considered a sanitary sewer overflow, and that they would like it reported as such. So we retroactively reported it because that was a section of pipe that we've had recurring problems with, and that pipe, just so that you know, was replaced last week. So that happened last Thursday. RCL that was a planned replacement as part of the Headworks project out at the lagoon site. So that would alleviate any future problems with that. So that they wanted to have a report from the township that I'll be drafting and sending to Tammy in regard to what we're doing to resolve that so that that doesn't recur. There's not a fine or a violation in the sense that, the township's going to have negative consequences. It was just a reporting oversight that they wanted to bring to our attention.
That was my next question, so thank you for addressing that.
Okay, does anybody else have any questions for Kat? Oh, okay, thank you. Okay, then moving on to the superintendent's report. First on is the drop-off dates.
All right, your packet contains the drop-off refuse flyer for 2022 and the current contract for disposal with Travis Sanitation, which is valid until April 30th, 2024. After a discussion with the township's vendor, the dates agreed upon for summer and fall are June 11, 2022 and September 10, 2022. I would ask that the board approve the 2 above listed dates for the first, June 11, and September 10 for the fall for the community drop-off refuse event.
Okay, does anybody have any questions? Was it done at Travis last year, or was it Sunrise?
Yes.
It was Travis? Okay, I can remember.
The September drop-off will be the same as the flyer here for June 11th?
Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, hearing none, is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion, we approve the contract with Travis for the dates specified.
Support Sutton.
Okay, there's a motion by Ms. McGuire and support by Mr. Sutton to approve the 2 dates as recommended and enter a contract in with Travis Sanitation. Roll call, please.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Mr. Wusterbar,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes,
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes, Ms. Richards.
Yes, motion carried. All right, then moving on to the fire department, sorry, I moved this. The fire department rescue boat acquisition request.
Your packet contains 5 quotes from boat dealerships for the 2022 capital improvement project, small boat replacement, approved by the Township Board for the fire department. Out of these 5 quotes, 1 had no jet drive boats available, 2 had no boats available until 2023, leaving a quote from Camp and Cruise for $19,779 and Augers Marine for $25,300. Chief McGregor is requesting to purchase the boat from Camp and Cruise in the amount of $19,779, leaving approximately $2,000 for outfitting of lights, decals, and communications. The amount set aside in the capital improvement is $22,000 for this project and requires Township Board approval.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions? I know Al is here in attendance for both items, if you have questions.
I'm just, are we sure that that 19,779 includes the jet drive for the boat? All the pictures I saw, it doesn't say that in here, and the pictures show an outboard.
It's extremely hard to find anything in anyone's lot at this period in time in our country. So, yes, it is a 40 jet drive, 40 at the pump. And that's the maximum amount you can put on that boat, 17-foot boat. And the purpose behind that boat is it's got a big work area. Typically when we use that boat, in the situations we're in the upper part of the river, low water, deadheads, weeds, gravel, and we've talked to some law enforcement people and other fire rescue people that say a jet drive is a must to do that type of work. So it'll be a big plus for our department to have that boat and to replace the small one that we've had for years.
Yeah. I just wanted to make sure, because it
Yes.
doesn't, I know you requested that, but it doesn't, in the listing, in the pictures,
Yes.
show only outboard motors.
It's a
Okay.
40
All right.
Mercury jet drive.
Jet drive, okay. And I've been up the river a ways, and I know
You know what we're
how
up
tricky that
against.
can be
Yes.
with a propeller. So with that, I would make a motion to approve the boat purchase for the fire department capital improvement plan in the amount of $19,779 from Camp and Cruise, and an additional $2,000 for outfitting to be paid from Fund 206-000-981.000.
Okay, is there support for that?
Support.
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Palmer and support by Ms. McGuire for approving the request as submitted. Roll call, please.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Mr. Wurstabarth,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes, Ms. Richards,
Yes, motion carried. Might as well
Thank you.
hang out there for a minute,
I'll
just
hang
in
out.
case. Okay,
I'll hang out.
all right. Next is the fire department fire hose purchase request.
All right, your packet contains 4 quotes for fire hose to replace the current fire hose on 3 of the fire department's pumper trucks. This item is currently in the Township Board's approval 2022 capital improvements and is budgeted currently at $22,500. Chief McGregor would like to accept the low bid from West Shore Fire Department in the amount of $15,191.10 for replacement of the fire hose.
Wow, that's the first time ever we've been under with something lately. Yay.
We'll come
Especially in
back for
this
the rest of it.
Yeah.
Just
Oh,
kidding.
sorry. Any questions?
Just a question, how often do the hoses have to be replaced?
They recommend 10 years. These particular hoses are the attack lines, so they go in excess of 150 PSI. So if they go beyond that, they're a danger to the people operating them. The other hoses we have just are hydrant supply lines, and the maximum is 60, usually about 60 PSI. So, but these are the attack lines, the ones we use actively on a routine basis on the fire. So we've got to keep those up so that they're safe.
Any other questions? All right, hearing none, is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve the purchase of replacement fire hose in the amount of $15,191.10 from West Shore Fire to be paid from Fund 206-000-981.000.
And any support?
Support, Sutton,
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Palmer with support by Mr. Sutton to approve the request as submitted. Roll call, please.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Mr. Wurstabarth,
Yes.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes, Mr.
Yes.
Cummings, Ms. Richards,
Yes, motion carried. All right, you're all
Thank
set.
you.
Al.
Thank you
Thanks,
for
Al.
your continual support. We appreciate it.
All right, thanks, Al.
Just to point out, you only have 4,000 left in your capital improvement for this year.
All right. Okay, moving on to the Awning Medical Center auction.
All right, your packet contains the purchase agreement and subject to addendum for the sale of Awning Medical Building for a price of $540,000, subject to board approval. Accepting the bid less than the established reserve price of $900,000 requires Township Board approval.
Oops.
Which,
Picked
this,
the wrong time to drink.
I just want to say that the resolution kind of goes with this
Yes.
particular subject, and it is for approval or denial of the
Right.
sale.
Okay. All right, well, I'm assuming we're going to have some discussion, so I guess I will open it up to questions, comments, thoughts.
We have been trying to sell this for a very long time, and I think it would behoove us to act on this offer.
Yeah, the building is not getting any younger. The maintenance costs are increasing. It hasn't been a cash cow for this township, I don't think ever. You know, as far as I'm concerned, I'm happy somebody out there thinks it's worth something that we can receive a check for.
And that we can put it on the tax roll and collect
Yes, sir.
property tax on the building.
That's right.
I did read through the document, but I didn't see, was it required that they identify what their plan was with it? Or, I mean, I see the name and everything else, but do we have any idea?
Yeah, I was going to ask the same question.
Yeah, I mean, do we know what the intended use is, I guess? Is it an investor, just, you know, because obviously there's, you know, a little bit of revenue coming in from one for sure contract, but the other ones are about ready to, you know, move out. So what is the thought process behind, or do we know?
I don't, we were not given that information. I don't know that the resolution we passed when we signed up with the auction, you know, required any of the bidders to, you know, stake claim to what they would use the building for. So to my knowledge, it's an, you know, commercial real estate investor.
So not necessarily with a plan, I guess, for future use or, you know.
No plan was disclosed to,
Was disclosed, okay.
yeah.
And the VA clinic goes with that purchase, correct? So they would be getting the income from that?
That's
And
correct. Yeah,
the leases,
the
right.
VA clinic isn't going anywhere.
Oh, no, I understand that.
But
I
But
know
we
a lot-
wouldn't
a
be-
lot of
but
people
we
watching
won't be
this-
collecting the money for
Yeah, a
it.
lot of people watching this meeting will claim that we kicked the VA out, and that is not the case. The VA is staying right where they're at. They have leaseholder rights to that building.
Well, I mean, I think actually their leases would probably be the main carrot that would bring anybody in.
Sure.
So, I mean, there was a $1.2 million investment by the VA for that project that then becomes whoever owns a asset for them. So,
That's right.
you know, I mean, it's a,
The revenue
yeah.
for 2022 is approximately $128,000, so that's something that the township will no longer have.
But we also won't have the expenses of that.
That's right.
Correct. I
Yeah.
understand
So
that,
it's
too.
basically a landlord change.
But-
He's doing it as an investment.
So what is stopping the person that's purchasing it to purchase it and then just let it sit there and become blight and we have to deal with it in, let's say, 10 years? Is there any guarantee that would not happen?
I don't think there's a guarantee with any building in this town or residents in this town that you could make.
Well, I
We
thought that
just
we.
deal with it at the time with the ordinance that we have, if it happens to be that way. I can't see the person investing, you know, $550,000 basically and just gonna let it sit there.
Well,
Yeah.
I get that, but I'm just asking that question. I mean, some of the other properties that we've sold, we've put contingent on the fact that they're going to be doing something with it within a certain time frame. So it was just a question, that's all.
Right, well, I know some of the existing businesses around there, including the Dance Academy that shares parking lot space and so on, is obviously very concerned, or Alpena Community College that looks over that property as well, that it's maintained. And I mean, I will fully admit, we, the township, don't always maintain the exterior to the extent that it should be. But yeah, I do have concerns, you know.
I recognize.
But I understand we have
Yeah.
ordinances in place and, you know, and we can hopefully, I would, again, as you indicate, Steve, I would think that nobody would invest that kind of money without wanting to see a return on their investment. That being said, some people do buy things and kind of use it as a way to write things off. I mean, I've seen that happen as well, sadly enough. But it's not a bad offer, really. I mean, I know we had a reserve amount and everything, but it's really not an awful offer
No.
with the amount of work that still needs to be done there. But it is a large
right.
piece of property, so I guess And there's no way to really add anything in regard to the PA about, or something, just wondering what the intended use is. Too late for that. That ship has sailed.
I think, yeah, the time for that would have been when we were signing the contract with the platform, the auction platform.
Right, I mean, I know we concentrated on making sure all the leases transferred. That was our big concern, but I guess there's a big chunk of the building that's obviously not used besides the VA clinic that, just hope it doesn't deteriorate, but. All right,
We
any
didn't have
further-
anything in the listing asking for intended use. We were just selling basically as is, where is with the current tenants. Is that correct?
Yes.
So I don't think we have any grounds at this
Right.
point to ask, because it wasn't in the listing, which would violate some real estate law.
Is the purchasing company or organization, is it a company that has experience in landlord management, business management? I mean, is this something that this is not their only piece in their portfolio?
I don't know as much about the buyer as the platform and as our broker does, but I will tell you, they put up $3 million in cash to participate in the auction, so they're well-funded.
Okay.
And I believe the entity or the person purchased 2 other properties off the platform, like within the last month or last 2 months, maybe. So I would classify this person or this group as a professional commercial asset manager.
Okay.
Do you know if those properties were also in Michigan, or were they
I
outside?
do not know where they were
Okay.
located.
All right, any other questions, or is there a motion?
I would make a motion that we approve the sale of Awning Medical Complex for a price of $540,000.
Support, Palmer.
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Sutton and support by Mr. Palmer. Sorry, I did just think of one question just before I vote. What is the commission on that? So, I mean, we're selling it for $540. Was it 27,000 of that is gonna go to the auction company? Not
No,
back to
the
us?
auction platform gets paid by the buyer.
By the buyer,
Yeah,
okay.
by a buyer fee. And I don't recall what our broker relationship is with Friedman. It's probably 6 or 7%.
Okay, thank you. All right, so there's a motion by Mr. Sutton and support by Mr. Palmer. Roll call, please.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Wishbarth?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. All right, moving on then to Spatial Needs and Operating Assessment Design Services Proposal.
Okay, the Planning Commission was tasked by the Board of Trustees with creating a subcommittee to investigate and initiate the planning process for a new multi-use facility to include a community center, police, fire, community meeting space, and township offices. At the April 11th, 2022 subcommittee work session, Rick Freeman was asked to provide a cost to update the previous study from a few years ago, as some departments' needs have changed, and there's also a need for a building operations assessment to provide a comparison between existing facilities versus a newly constructed combined services building. Attached is a proposal received from WTA Architects for both assessments and a final presentation in the amount of $14,800. I would ask that the board consider approval for both assessments so the board-created committee can continue moving forward with the municipal services building process.
Did you say that, I'm sorry, can I? You didn't say discussion, so.
Is there questions? Sorry.
Did you say that there's going to be I can't see you, Tammy, I'm sorry. It's hard to see you and Todd down there. Did you say there's going to be a structural assessment done of our current facility also?
Yes, versus a new building. It
Okay.
would go to energy costs, both heating and cooling and
Everything, from top to
Everything,
bottom?
top to
All the way
bottom.
down to the, yep,
structural.
yep,
Yes.
okay. Thank you.
Does that include an analysis of turning the current building into a two-story building? I don't see anything in here that relates to that.
When I spoke with Jason Groff with Wigan Ticknell, he said that when they do the operations assessment, that'll be looked at.
Because I think everybody can agree, you can put a lot more efficiency items into a brand-new building.
Yep.
I think it's pretty obvious that a new building would be far more efficient to operate than the old building. But if we're comparing apples to apples, we need to know that the current building could support a second story if we needed to do that.
And that was one of my questions that I asked him, because the foundation would be questionable, you know, if it could handle going up 2 stories, because it's been there for quite some time. So that would be included.
Okay.
Good.
That wasn't clear in their scope of service here.
Yeah, the scope isn't clear.
I can make it very clear if
Thank
need
you.
be.
Also, Tammy, a few years ago, we talked about doing these same assessments. Is this the same company that bid on it the last time? Are you aware?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
thank you.
So we asked Rick to put together a cost to update the previous study, or we asked Rick to reach out to WTA? I'm just a little
Yes,
confused on
he
that.
reached out to WTA, only
Okay.
because they already have existing information, and it would be a lot cheaper to use partially what we have, and we do have some changes that have occurred since they were there last.
Right, I did read the proposal that said it, you know, they did it in 2019, and since then, there could be the basis for this evaluation for 2019, something about, I guess, what main changes have happened in regard to,
Well, we now have a female police officer, so that changes some of the things that they were looking at for locker rooms, and we do have more people. I don't believe, were you there? Todd was not here when that assessment was done. So, and our assessing area may look a little differently
right?
from the last time as well.
I never saw the original, the thing that was done in 2019, so I guess I'm not familiar with what they presented then, but. Anybody else? I mean, obviously, the couple board members that were board members then did.
Yeah, without having it here in front of me, I can't recall exactly what
No.
was done with that.
Yep.
My main concern was that it didn't look like they were including the structure of the current township hall. So if that is definitely included in this to hold a second story, then that's,
Would you like to revisit at the next meeting?
Well, I think you can just take action on it.
Okay.
You know, so I think what I'd like to do is, I move that we approve both assessments from WTA Architects for the 2 assessments and a final presentation in the amount of $14,800, with the proviso that the superintendent speak to WTA Architects and ensure that the second floor and foundation is included in the scope.
I would support that.
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Cummings, support by Mr. Palmer. Is there any further discussion before we do a roll call? Okay, hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Worcester?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
No, motion carried. Moving on then to Consumers Energy Foundation Prosperity Awards.
All right, your packet contains information regarding the grant opportunity offered through Consumers Energy Foundation. The grant is offered for neighborhood revitalization or community arts projects. Single grant awards up to $250,000 with a zero match. Letters of intent are due May 20th, and if requested by the foundation, an application due in June. Submitting a letter of intent for a grant program requires Township Board approval.
Okay, is there any questions on this or discussion?
Sounds like a no-brainer. I'll make a motion that we submit the letter for the intended purposes of competing for the Prosperity Award.
Support, Sutton?
Okay, there's a motion by Ms. McGuire and support by Mr. Sutton to approve sending in the letter of intent. Is there any further discussion? Roll call then.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Wishbarth?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. Okay, then moving on to actually we skipped 7. So we're moving on to resolutions. The first resolution is resolution number 2022-09. It's the construction contract for the water system improvements.
Good evening. This resolution is for the 2022 Water System Improvement Project. This resolution is needed as a tentative award to Elmer's for us to move forward with the, at least to keep the option available to move forward with the RSF funding for this year. So that's what we are looking for, is to give a tentative award to Elmer's for the 2022 water main project.
Okay, is there any questions? And that water main project is the one on Ridge Road and,
Ridge and, yes, Interlake. Trying to remember all the names. There's a few roads that are there, but it is, the main one is Ridge.
does anybody else have any questions? Okay, is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2022-09 as it relates to construction contract for water system improvements as presented.
Is there support?
Support, Wishbarth.
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Palmer, support by Mr. Westbarth, to approve resolution 2022-09. Roll call, please.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Wishbarth?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. Moving on to resolution number 2022-10, approval of the social district permit for Bowl Management Incorporated, or BOL, sorry, I don't know if it's pronounced which way.
Yeah, bowl management, so that's the Edelweiss Tavern.
Got it.
So just so you guys understand, I mean, we've done everything so far that the township can do for our social district. We, as a community, are blessed. The final step is then giving permit, the individual bars and restaurants, their permit blessed by us by resolution. So you have the office, and Tate's in front of you for your votes.
If we approve all these, Todd, and get this ball rolling, what would be the time frame to start the social districting?
I think it happens, I'm trying to get it done before Memorial Day weekend.
Awesome. Will there be some type of an introduction or something so when people know how it works?
Well, the owners there's an onus on each establishment to, educate the patrons as to, what you can and can't do. But we were gonna, get a QR code at each location so people could zap with their phone and they could pull up the map on their phone in real time and the rules and regulations.
And where would that information be ultimately coming from? It's a website URL, so is that going to be on the
It's on
township?
it's on the EIC
I see.
website right now. You could actually go there, and we have a tab across the top that says downtown, and so you could look at our arts page specifically or the social district page specifically.
Thank you.
Do we have a link from the township website, like on the front page of that for people?
We most certainly do.
Excellent.
Okay, any other questions? All right, so we're going to take each one at a time, but basically they're all
Yep.
the same, just based on the business.
Yep, exactly.
Okay. And they did, as the business, have a fee to do that permit?
Yes,
Okay,
they pay that to the liquor commission
right, okay.
separately.
So they are individually paying for that, we are not?
Correct.
Okay, all right. Okay, so first on is resolution number 2022-10, the social district permit for basically the E, so.
I would make a motion to approve the social district permit for BOL Management Incorporated.
Support Cummings.
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Sutton and support by Mr. Cummings to approve resolution 2022-10. Roll call, please.
Mr. Worcester,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes,
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes, Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Ms. Richards,
Yes, motion carried. Next on is resolution 2022-11. Again, that's approval of the social district permit for LHH LLC, which is the office.
Correct.
Okay,
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2022-11 for LHH LLC.
support Sutton.
okay, there's a motion by Ms. McGuire and support by Mr. Sutton to approve resolution 2022-11. Roll call, please.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Mr. Worcester,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes,
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes, Ms. Richards,
Yes, motion carried. And last is resolution 2022-12, the approval of the social district permit by Tate's Restaurant.
Would
I'll
make-
make, oh, go ahead, Josh.
I would make a motion to approve the social district permit for Tate's.
Support.
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Sutton and support by Ms. McGuire to approve resolution 2022-12. Roll call, please.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Mr. Worcester,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes,
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes, Ms. Richards,
Yes, motion carried. All right, thank you for that. Moving on to the agenda addition, which is resolution 2022-13, based on the action that we took at
Earlier.
on the Awning sale. We have further discussion, or are we ready to act on that? I think it was distributed, it was emailed out to everybody this afternoon.
Yep.
A hard copy was given to us here, and then it's also been uploaded on the, in the packet that was online, I'm assuming.
I believe so.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2022-13 as it relates to the sale of Awning as previously approved.
Support Worcester.
There's a motion by Mr. Palmer and support by Mr. Westerbarth to approve resolution 2022-13. Roll call, please.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes, Mr. Worcester,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
yes,
Mr. Richards, or Ms. Richards.
Yes. I'm sorry, yes.
Jeremy
Motion
had me
carried.
in there throwing it off.
Okay, moving on to other, the topic of other. We have movies by the peer request from the CVB.
Yes, you have, your packet has a request for the Wednesday night summer movie series from the CVB for July and August of 2022.
So it's pretty much just like it has been in past years. Wednesday
Yes.
is the movie.
Starts at dusk.
Okay, starts at dusk,
The letter says June. June through August.
June.
Oh, I'm sorry, I missed June. I'm sorry.
Okay.
And any rainouts, they usually try to do on Friday. Okay, is there any questions? It's been a great event so far. I'm glad they're continuing on with
That's
it.
through August.
Mhm,
June through August.
24th.
It's very popular.
I'll make a motion, we approve the schedule for movies by the pier.
Support by Cummings.
Okay, there's a motion by Ms. McGuire and support by Mr. Cummings to approve the request submitted by the CVB. Roll call, please.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes,
Mr. Worcester,
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. Moving on to the 2022 summer newsletter.
So this was a little hard to get together. People are, I think the department heads are still adjusting from the last couple of years, little information. But I do believe that Melinda had this distributed to a few different offices in Township Hall for their point of view. I didn't hear any bad feedback at all, and I would like to see about getting this approved tonight so we can have it in time for the June tax letters.
Okay. Anybody notice anything on there that they're not comfortable with or suggest changes, or are we good to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve the 2022 summer newsletter.
Support. Sutton?
Okay, there's a motion by Ms. McGuire and support by Mr. Sutton to approve the newsletter as submitted. Roll call, please.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Worcester?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. Next on is the Asco County Equalization Services revisited.
Okay, so after a very long discussion with our current assessor, her evaluation of the services we would get with equalization would, in her words, would not even equal to the description clerk that we have currently right now. Most of the services they provide, we can obtain ourselves or someone else online. And it would basically, in Nancy's words, be a finger pointing. So you still have to hire an assessor, and then you would have equalization separately. And when problems would arise, she said, you'll end up with this. Just, like we did with the phone system. It's not me, it's them, and it's not them, it's me, back and forth. So her recommendation was to continue forward looking for either remote assessing services or in-house.
Are we still advertising that RFP someplace for the assessor?
Nancy and I are working with the remote part because there are none at this time. We have one person that we would like to speak to, which I'd rather not get into at this time, for in-person assessing, but it looks more and more like remote is going to be the direction we have to take.
But have we used, I think there's like an assessing some
Yes.
kind of, we've advertised on there, like
Yes,
steadily or,
yes.
Okay.
And we have had nothing.
okay.
Tammy, is it possible even with the remote assessing that they would still be able to have Helen sitting there to answer the questions or deal with people in forms and things like that?
We're working on that,
Okay.
definitely. I would like to have at least a face in there for people to talk to.
Yeah, they're always very busy, so.
Yes, and
Yeah, I'd like-
it's helpful with the PREs, the exemptions. So,
I'd like to say I'm strongly in favor of keeping, Helen there, just because that, having a person to speak to answer basic questions, to get a form, talk about a transfer of ownership, homestead,
Yeah.
all of this stuff is like,
Veterans exemptions, they're
Yes.
super busy with all that stuff.
yeah, it's important to have somebody.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, I'll just add that I talked to Fred Lewis, who's a supervisor from Hale, and they recently went to a remote assessor. And he said there was a little difficulty transition in the beginning, but he said it's worked out very, very well. Anyone that has any questions, they have a card that you can give to the people with either a phone number or an email address, and they can call the assessor, and they will send them whatever information they need, answer any questions they have over the phone or by email. He said it's worked out tremendous for Hale. They're having no problems with having a remote assessor. So just to keep that in mind. I know we've become, used to having our assessor right there, and, they do a great job of being in the township hall. And I was concerned with going to a remote situation, but according to Mr. Lewis, they made that transition, and it's worked just smoothly for their residents over there. They had some questions in the beginning, of course, but after just a short period of time, everybody's adjusted to it, and it's working out quite well. So, just
Do you, by any chance, know, like, how many parcels they have compared to how many parcels we have?
I'm sure it's
Size.
much smaller than
Right, I just was wondering, yeah,
our township.
We have over
Yeah.
10,000.
yeah.
Yeah.
I know, yeah, I mean, Nancy's kind of spoiled us having on-site and
Yeah.
the community to be able to get answers in a quick manner. There's a lot of places that don't have that, and it does take a lot longer, so. But with that, we do need to act on the assessors, or what is that? The assessing
Services.
the service, so we need to either accept or decline it. They've asked again, so I guess based on our discussion, I make a motion that we decline the contract as submitted by Iosco County Equalization.
Support by Cummings.
Okay, so there's a motion by Ms. Richards, and support by Mr. Cummings to, what did I say? Decline the contract as submitted.
Right.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Wurstabarth?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. Moving on then to the Planning Commission bylaw amendment.
All right, so you have the proposed bylaw amendments provided by Ms. Follett. It was unanimously approved by the Planning Commission, and they are requesting board approval for those amendments.
Okay.
I would just ask if Ms. Follett got the comment from Ms. Hopcroft to make the change in here? Yes. Okay.
I'll make a motion that we approve the bylaws amendments, including Ms. Hopcroft's statement at the first public comment.
Support. Palmer.
Okay, there's a motion by Ms. McGuire, support by Mr. Palmer, to approve as submitted, including the suggestion made during the first public comment. Roll call.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Wurstabarth?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. Moving on to the AHC office furniture purchase request.
All right, we received an email from Cindy Swice with Alcona Health Center requesting the purchase of the picture of the file cabinet in your packet. And they have offered $20 for that particular item.
Randomly going to be submitting requests as they go through things, or, should we, do you think this is just one?
Yeah.
We just sold the building.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be up to the new landlord.
Yeah, I don't think it's up to us any longer.
Well, then, should we actually be selling this, considering we just sold the building along with all the other?
That's what I just said. Yeah.
What is the,
No.
Right, so no.
I think if you refer to page 106 of the packet, under the terms of the auction sale,
there you go.
it's the bill of sale, and it includes all personal property.
There it is.
So I
Yep.
would not want to lose a $540,000 sale over a $20 cabinet.
Yes,
So,
correct.
and that was our the way we handled it before. We've had other requests for equipment, and we declined those requests because the building was for sale.
Right,
So I
what-
think we should
by
be
the lab equipment, everything else.
consistent, yes.
Okay. Great, so we will, I make a motion, we respectfully decline based on the fact that we're currently selling the building, including contents.
I support that. Cummings.
Okay, so there's a motion by Ms. Richards, support by Mr. Cummings to decline with regrets based on the fact that we're selling the building and it's included in. Roll call, please.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Wursterbarth?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes. Motion carried. Moving on to, we have a few board appointments. I had sent an email to put these items on the agenda. The actual, first page of the email didn't get included in the board packet. It just kind of had some narrative in regard to term expiration, that kind of stuff. But
It's in,
it's in now?
yes.
Okay.
It was put in this morning.
Okay, all right. So the first one anyways is the OWA, the Lfda board appointments. We have two, well, there's going to be a few that expire this year, but the first two that have already expired were actually Lisa Sutton. Her term expired, and she's willing to renew for another 4 years. So that new expiration date would be 12/31/2025. And then we also have the school. The school has actually included a resolution where they indicated who they were recommending. There is a switch from the previous board member. It will now be replaced with Mr. Seth Alda, and his appointment would be good through 12/31/2025. If you look at that resolution that was done by the school, they actually also addressed a term renewal for somebody whose term it hasn't expired yet. So I told them we wouldn't be acting on that because they are supposed to be staggered terms. So at this time, I am asking for board approval in regard to the two appointments, which is Lisa Sutton and Mr. Seth Alda.
Yes, I have a question too. Are there
Okay.
bylaws for this board?
The
that-
LDFA?
The LDFA?
Yes.
Okay, so I'd kind of like to review the bylaws and see what makes up those appointments and what the requirements are before
Okay.
I'd be willing to act. That's just my
I
opinion.
believe Gary sent that to you, Tammy, and Ann
In the beginning.
in the beginning when he was asking for the appointments.
I would have to take a look.
Okay.
The bylaws?
The, how the board was structured.
I guess I don't know, I mean, I can't say that the bylaws were there, but the structure of the board makeup was
Yes.
there.
Well, I just want to understand that, because I know one of the individuals does not live in Oscoda Township. So I just would like to read the bylaws myself and go through them, so I understand who we're appointing and what the requirements are. I don't want to do it blind,
Okay,
is what I'm saying. So, with that, I'd like to postpone this to the next meeting after we have a receipt of the bylaws for review.
Okay.
okay, so there's a motion by Mr. Westerbarth to postpone to the next meeting. Is there support?
I'll support.
I'll just say this, the airport authority is made up of different communities also,
No, I know the airport authority is.
and they are a part of the airport authority.
And the bylaws I've reviewed of the airport authority, but I have not personally reviewed the bylaws
Okay.
of the
Well-
LFDA.
I understand that.
Yeah.
I just know Gary Kellen wouldn't send it and say it's okay for her to be reappointed if it wasn't okay, but I understand where you're coming from.
Okay, so there's a motion on the table. Any further discussion? All right, hearing none. Roll call, please.
Who's the support for that one?
Mr. Palmer.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Wursterbarth?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried, and we'll get those to everybody
Thank you.
tomorrow.
Yep, I'll email Brenda in the morning.
Okay, all right. And then moving on, then next is the Planning Commission, the alternate position appointment. The alternate is actually, the term will expire 12/31/2024, according to Nicole's math. We did receive, wait, my eyeballs just jumped to the wrong person. Let me just get back to where I was. Okay, sorry. It is that term, 12/31/2024. We actually received 2 applications Both are in the packet. There was Christy Beckner and also Jacqueline McKenzie. Both had indicated that they wanted to be on the Planning Commission as the alternate. Actually, they have both indicated that they would be willing to do the Zoning Board of Appeals alternate as well, and that position is the same term, expiration 12/31/2024. All of that being said, there is information that's included in the packet from Nicole that indicates that for the Planning Commission, there is an allowance to have somebody outside of the township appointed on that. There is not the same allowance in regard to the Zoning Board of Appeals. So I guess based on that, my suggestion would be to put Jacqueline on the Planning Commission and then as an alternate, and Christy Beckner on the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Is that a motion?
Yes.
Just a question before we vote. So the application from Ms. Beckner doesn't have a designation as to what she was looking for. Was she just looking for anything?
No, she actually did indicate that she wanted the Planning Commission.
Okay, good.
Yeah, when
Okay,
I
fine.
reached out, but it wasn't on her application.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. Okay.
But I did talk to both of them, and they were both willing to do either or. They just want to be involved.
That was going to be my
Yes.
next question.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
We have to appoint them separately? Motion?
Yes, yes. So I guess I would make a motion that the first, I'm just trying to remember how the agenda went. Sorry. The first one is the Planning Commission alternate appointment. So I make a motion that we appoint Jacqueline McKenzie as the Planning Commission alternate.
Support.
Sorry, I have a lot of arrows going on here. I just gotta get them. Okay, so there's a motion by Ms. Richards, support by Ms. McGuire to appoint Jacqueline McKenzie for the Planning Commission alternate appointment. Any further discussion? All right, roll call then.
Mr. Wurstabarth?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. Next on the agenda is the EIC board appointment, and we.
Do Chris,
Well,
question?
we actually did that as an agenda
Oh,
addition,
addition,
like a
okay.
little bit later, so we'll
All
do,
right.
yeah, like a couple more down. It got missed when I originally emailed the appointments.
Tracking.
So, so then we're moving on then to the EIC board appointment. We actually have, again, I'm just gonna discuss them, they're next to each other, but we have a recent opening in regard to the fact that Rosemary Netwig did resign her position, and we already had an opening previously with the EIC as an alternate, correct? Okay. So we have received 2 applications for, actually, they were both identified as the alternate, because I think when they submitted the application at the time, that's all we had was the alternate available. That your understanding too, Todd?
I'm not familiar with the dates they were submitted, so I
Okay.
should comment on that, but I trust you.
Okay, all right. So anyways, there's 2 applications in the packet. I did include both. At this time, I would like to make a motion that we approve Heather Tate for the EIC board appointment position.
Support.
There's a motion by Ms. Richards, support by Ms. McGuire to approve Heather Tate as the EIC board appointment. Any discussion or questions?
Yeah, I sort of object to that because she had on her application put down as an alternate position, and Ms. Touton had requested the EIC position. My motion was going to be to appoint Mary Ed Touton to the open position on the EIC. But you already have a motion.
There's already a motion on the floor.
Heather did this for her job up in Grayling, actually, with the branding and working with the basic same things that the EIC is doing here in Oscoda Township, and she's also on the art committee and things like that, so that was the only kind of weighing factor for me between the two of them, to be honest.
Well, I guess I have a weighing factor. I see Miss Ed here at pretty much every meeting, and even the Planning Commission and the EIC. And I see her involved, and I know Miss Tate is involved as well. But I'm looking at what I see with my eyes every day, and I see Miss Ed involved on a daily basis. And I have no issue with either one, but looking at the one that I think was probably gonna put the most time in, just from what I see and view, yeah, I have to agree with Bill.
Well, I mean, actually, in theory, both have to attend each meeting. It doesn't matter if you're an alternate or not, so.
Right.
Just in regard to that. Okay, so again, there's a motion on the table,
I had a couple other things too.
and support, and any further discussion then?
Tate's are a business owner downtown, and I think with the new ethics ordinance that we just passed, I think that that might be challenging, or has been challenging for some of the people in the past, and so maybe moving forward, we need to work on that also, when we keep in mind who we're going to be appointing to different functions on the committees and boards.
I don't think I understand that, but
Social media posts.
And I guess my comment is, based on the two applications, I mean, Mary Ed, you do indicate that you're actually an employee of one of the trustees. So I just feel that that's maybe not a good link, just to start with, because I feel that it could come into question at different times, and also, you know, you've been very vocal in regard to even possibly being a developer of housing. So, I mean, I just think that there are some areas there that maybe out of the gate maybe set us up for some trouble. So that's my thought process. But any other discussion before we vote on the motion on the table? Okay, again, the motion is to appoint Heather Tate as the EIC Board Appointment. That motion was made by myself and supported by Ms. McGuire. So at this time, I'll take a roll call, please.
Mr. Palmer?
no.
Mr. Worcestebarth?
No, I'd like to see Miss Tate as an alternate.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
No.
Sorry. Mr. Sutton? Yes. Ms. Richards?
No. I mean, I'm sorry, yes. I forgot what I was doing.
So motion's failed.
So motion failed. Sorry, I'm just making these notes. Okay, with that then, Bill, I'm assuming you're going to make another motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve Mary Ed Tootin to the open position on the EIC.
Support.
And I'd like to bring up in the topic that was mentioned in the previous motion. So what is the actual rule in the ethics code for who can participate? When we're talking about somebody who's family, we get that a clear delineation. That's not a problem. Yes, Ms. Tootin does work for me. She works part-time as a bookkeeping. So my question here would be, what is that? I mean, my recollection of the language that I don't have in front of me right now to read to you was that working for somebody wasn't necessarily a problem. It was a family relationship. It was maybe marital, which is borderline family. I don't know what else there is that we need to be careful of. I was clearly disallowed abstaining from the vote when she was coming up for a development opportunity. So I don't feel that I'm disallowed from voting on this topic. I clearly can't benefit from it. I have no financial benefit here. And as it was pointed out, I merely know her. So, I mean, even though I work with her, I simply know her. So I guess my question is, you know, can you explain further what you were trying to say earlier about your concern of her role in the EIC?
Are you asking me or are you
Yes,
asking
because
Ms.
you're the one who
McGuire?
brought it up.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah, yeah.
all right. Well, we each said something, so that's why I
Sure.
was asking.
Different, yeah.
Yeah, different. So I believe that Ms. McGuire brought up, in regard to the ethics ordinance, I brought up the employment component. So
Yep.
it's my personal feeling. I'm not,
Right.
you know,
It's
actually the family or employee or anything else would have been in the protocol manual, not necessarily the ethics. I don't know if we, honestly don't remember if there was something in the ethics or not in regard to that. But I do know for board appointments and so on, family
Sure.
members, you know, that's the reason why we had to have, you know, some people resign once certain
Yes.
people got elected.
Right.
That's in our protocol. But my thought process is I just feel that, again, I'm not comfortable making the recommendation. So I did put it in the packet because it's been indicated before that I have not necessarily shared everything. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody was aware of who applied.
No, totally, no, there's no question there, and appreciate the transparency. What I'm trying to do is disambiguate the situation here, because what you're basing it on is your personal comfort level. I'm trying to bring it out into something more black and white and see what is it, because I might agree with you if I understood what logic you were applying.
Well, I guess it is some of what Ms. McGuire has indicated, and that is the social media and some of the very aggressive posts that I've seen made. So
I see.
don't feel that that is
Okay.
appropriate. So I guess as we're moving forward anyways with an ethic ordinance that's going to apply to all of our boards and subcommittees, we need to make sure that everybody is following those, so.
Sure.
So we do have then, I'm sorry, Bill, you made the motion, correct?
Yes,
Okay, and
yes.
Steve, you,
I support it.
okay, all right. So is there any further, did you want comments from Tim or anything from Jamie, or are you good? Okay,
No.
so there's then the motion by Mr. Palmer, support by Mr. Westerbarth to appoint Myriad for the regular opening in the EIC board. All right, any further comments? Hearing none, we'll do roll call, please.
Mr. Cummins?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
No?
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Worcesterbart?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
No. Motion carried. All right. Then the next, we have the EIC board alternate appointment. Again, at this time then, I would make a motion that we appoint Heather Tate as the alternate on the EIC board.
I would support that. Palmer?
Okay, so there's a motion by Ms. Richards, support by Mr. Palmer to appoint Heather Tate as the alternate on the EIC. Any further discussion? All right, hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Worcesterbart?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. Okay, and then next then was the agenda addition, and that was the Zoning Board of Appeals, the alternate position there. As we previously discussed, my recommendation would be to appoint Christy Beckner for that position.
Support.
All right, so there is a motion by Ms. Richards, support by Ms. McGuire to appoint Christy Beckner as the Zoning Board of Appeals alternate. Any further discussion? All right, hearing none, roll call, please.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Worcesterbart?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. I'm sorry, did I stopped writing. Did I make that, or did you, Jamie?
I think it was you, Ann.
You made the motion
Okay.
and I seconded
I
it.
started writing and I wrote miss instead of anything. So Richards. Okay, so actually, since Todd and Nicole are both here, I will be emailing you. Obviously, you're both here, so you know what they are, but I'll be emailing you, and then if you could then reach out, explain things, and then they'll have to get in to be sworn in at a time that's good for the clerk's office. Okay, so we'll follow up with those tomorrow. All right, moving on then. We have the John Henry invoice that was an agenda addition.
All right, you have the final pay request from John Henry Excavating on the shoreline erosion project that we started last year. The project has been completed, including the work this spring on the decking and the stairs. I would ask that you approve this capital improvement project for $62,150. Pay to John Henry out of 218-000-984.000.
Tammy, could you repeat that fund, please?
218-000-984.000.
Okay, is there any further, or is there any, not further, is there any questions? Have you've been out there to see the,
Yes, and we actually took pictures, and I'm hoping, as in previous years, Melinda and I are going to work together to each year have pictures of capital improvements to show the board at the end of the year, so you can see. I mean, it looks very nice. They did a really good job.
I went out there and looked at it, and it's beautiful. It's a huge improvement over what they had. And I would point out that it's $3,000 less than the original bid. So with that, I would make a motion to approve second payment to John Henry Excavating in the amount of $62,150 for completion of the shore erosion and drainage project at Old Orchard Park to be paid out of Fund 218-000-984-000.
Support by Cummings.
okay? There's a motion by Mr. Palmer and support by Mr. Cummings to approve that invoice from John Henry. Roll call, please.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Wurschenbarth?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. Okay, before we jump to the public comment section, I just want to point out in the informational section, there's a Lake Pro invoice in there that is for like $42,000. That is not accurate, so we're talking to them. So they invoiced us for some reason for the entire contract of consulting, not just the 2022, which we didn't pay it or anything, but it was just in the packet. So I just want to point that out, that is not,
Shouldn't that have been in the, should that have been under action too, if it was an invoice?
we weren't, it wasn't in there to
Oh,
pay.
okay.
Yeah, I think it was just included.
Oh.
They must have included it with the permit that was paid for the applications and stuff, I'm not sure, but. just wanted
And
to
the way
note
it's
that.
written, it looks like that's just the amount of the contract with some verbiage that you can pay half. It looks,
Yeah,
it's kind of,
yeah, but it says 20, it actually literally says 2022
yeah.
and identifies that dollar amount, and that's
Yeah.
not the case. 'Cause if it was, then we wouldn't be able to apply any weed control, because it would,
Right.
yeah, I'll be eaten up. But, okay, so moving on with, this is the second public comment section of the board meeting. Again, it does not have to be related to anything that we discussed tonight, but this is the second public comment. You have the same limits, 4 minutes, but no cards. So we'll start, just randomly, I'm gonna start on the far right-hand side. So anybody in the far right-hand side, if you'd like to make a public comment, if you'd raise your hand? No? Okay. Anybody in the middle section, would you like to make a public comment? You could raise your hand. Okay, Kathy? And again, when you come to the podium, if you could please state your name.
Sure, Kathy Woosterbarth. Good evening.
Hello.
I'd like to just announce that the Now Group, Need Our Water, is going to have an in-person meeting for the first time in what seems like years. On May 19th at 6 p.m. at the Oscoda Asabal VFW, number 3735. We are going to be presented the Mdhhs Hometown Health Hero Award. which I'm very proud that our group has earned this from the state of Michigan. It is for groups that are dedicated to protecting and improving the health of Michigan residents. So they will be there to present that to our members. Yeah, it is a great accomplishment for our group. We'll also have updates from the May 18th Restoration Advisory Board meeting that is going to occur the day before that, and then many other updates on our activities in our group. So, thank you.
Thanks. Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't see any other raised hands, but any other raised hands on the middle section? No? Okay. And then far right, or I guess left, sorry. Don't know anybody over there? Okay. Then that wraps up our public comment section of the agenda. Moving on then to board comments. Do any board members have comments this evening?
I just thought of one with Todd, when we were talking a little bit earlier. Maybe we could put some of those things in our office. We have a bookcase in there that might be helpful for people. I know I came down the hallway a couple times today and you weren't in your office, so I couldn't really talk to you or ask you any questions. But maybe we can leave those things so people can just pick them up, possibly?
Talking about the LOIs?
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
You mentioned they were on the website too, though, right? Yeah, okay.
I'd just like to mention, everyone can see there's a giant check down here that you can see.
Yep,
We were presented that this morning from Consumers Energy for the Phase 3 of the Oscoda Exploration Trail bike path, non-motorized bike path. Consumers Power has been an integral part of the Bike Path Committee. They have, over the years, attended virtually all of our meetings, been very supportive. Of course, there's certain requirements that have to be met. They have to go through FERC, which is the Federal Energy Regulatory, I'm having a hard time talking here, Regulatory Commission to get approval for everything that we do. As you may or may not know, they own Old Orchard Park. We operate that with their blessing. And this check came from an application that was put in by the IET Secretary, Roberta Smith, and she did that in conjunction with the patronicity grant that we were working on, and unfortunately consumers couldn't get that money to us in time to make the patronicity grant, but it will make up part of the money that the township put in to achieve that match for the patronicity. So this is very beneficial to the Phase 3 of the bike path. I'm quite excited that because we have come in scraping by our nails to get the funding for Phase 3, and we are just under the wire. So this is a big help to us in that effort in constructing that portion of the trail. We work very closely with consumers along with the U.S. Forest Service, and they're a stakeholder. And I would just like to say that going forward, we're going to need other stakeholders, businesses, individuals, to be continuing contributors to the bike path, because once the entire path is installed, there will be maintenance and upkeep that will be required. Now, the Phase 3 of the bike path and the other phases that will go on out River Road out to M65 will all be a crushed, compacted gravel trail, similar to what they have the Phase 2 that's over by Loon Lake Park in Hale. That's a beautiful, beautiful trail over there. I would encourage anybody to go over and take a walk on that trail. It's a beautiful spot over there, and you'll get an idea of what a compacted, crushed gravel trail is like, which is what Phase 3 and the remainder of our phases going out River Road will be. So we're hoping to, continue this effort and all the help we can get. We have a couple of contributors. The CVB, the Convention and Visitors Bureau, has made a commitment, 5-year commitment, $1,000 a year, and they have paid the first 3 years on that, and I understand they are going to re-up that commitment for another 5 years when this first commitment is done. So we will need more stakeholders and businesses, and I've talked to a number of businesses in town, and they're fully supportive of a bike path. Basically, what they're waiting for is to have more path in place to see, you know, what they're actually supporting. So just to get that word out to all of our businesses and residents and everything, that we will need some funding on a regular basis to maintain this bike path once it's completed. So, thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Do you have anything, Steve?
Yeah, just one thing, should we close Awning, I'd like the board to consider, well, I'm hoping once it gets closed, that we possibly earmark that money towards future capital plans that we're going to be discussing, specifically in the teams of public safety, so with fire and police, and specific to that, possible a ladder truck. I think it's something we should consider with those funds.
Yep.
That's all.
And I had one, I want to just provide a reminder to everybody who is tracking the PFAS contamination that the former Wordsmith Air Force Restoration Advisory Board meeting that is scheduled for May 18th at 5 p.m. at the Oscoda United Methodist Church, which is at 120 West Dwight Street, is still on. So I provided this announcement last meeting. It's just a reminder to everybody. I'm sure there's going to be a notice in the newspaper, and just want everyone to be able to attend.
Okay, thank you. Anything, Josh? No? Okay, all right. So I actually have no comment. Shockingly, I know. But I have no comment. With that, I would take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you.